Hey folks, I'm Ronnie Green from A Fishing Story, and it's Tackle Tuesday. Tackle Tuesday is something we're going to start doing because we get so many letters where people are asking us questions about how do I start, where do I start as a fisherman. I want to take my son or my daughter fishing, and I've never done it before. And then we even have the experts that have questions as well. So Tackle Tuesday is some basic information just about fishing and the type of tackle you can use. First thing we're going to talk about today, because I love hooks, we're going to talk about hooks. As you can see, there is tons and tons of hooks everywhere. When you walk into a place like a Bass Pro Shops, you'll see hooks for days. So where do you start? What do I look at? There's so much to look at, so we're going to concentrate on 3 hooks that I think will identify with every aspect of your fishing. We'll talk about the light wire hook. We'll talk about the heavy duty wire or heavy wire hook. And then of course we'll talk about the circle hook, which is more catered to saltwater fishing. And first and foremost, let's take a look at circle hook. I personally like a circle hook, and the reason the circle hook is so valuable, especially as a conservationist. Most of us that fish in saltwater with a species that you don't keep, you want a hook that's not going to hurt the fish. So a circle hook is the ideal hook to have. And I like to go typically with a 3 or 4-aught circle hook, because what it's going to do, it's going to hook the fish the side of the mouth. It's not going to get stuck in the gullet, so you cause them to have some damage, and ultimately they'll die, and we have other problems, especially if it's a protected species. So a circle hook is great to have, and it's something that I like to fish with a lot. Let's talk about a light wire hook. This is pretty important to me. I like a light wire hook. Because a light wire hook works to my advantage when I'm fishing and I'm making long casts. When you're making long casts with a light wire hook, you want to be able to get some torque, and because it's so thin, it doesn't take much to hook the fish. It's kind of like a light gauge wire needle when you're getting your blood taken. That's the way you want to kind of look at it, because what it does, it's able to hook the fish, especially when you're throwing long distances in fresh water, clear water, and you don't want to spook the fish. A light wire hook works well. And of course, when you're in Florida, you better get you a heavy gauge wire hook. We use this one for flipping. We call it a flipping hook. Why? Because it has a heavy gauge wire, and it allows you to have a lot of torque. And anybody knows me, when I set the hook, especially here in Florida with all the grass and stuff that you're in or punching, you got to put it on them, and when you do, you don't want the hook to bend. And of course, I like grip pin type hooks because you can see right on the end there, it holds a soft plastic, and that's important to me because you can tie a snell knot, and we'll talk about that later on in some other videos, the type of knots, but you can also make sure that the plastic is kept on the hook and it's not going to damage the plastic so much and keep you from losing a fish because you are not able to set the hook right, or the bait just falls off the hook, which happens a lot when you don't have some type of plastic keeper. So heavy gauge wire hook is something you need to have in your repertoire. And of course, there's other hooks as well, hooks that are tied to jigs, and this of course is tied to a shaky head or is tied to some other finesse type baits. And as you can see, my favorite thing is always to have that plastic keeper so that my bait stays on there. That's important. So when you're doing some finessing or some shaky heading, those things are pretty important, but the main thing is make sure you got the right hook. And why do I like Mustad? I'm gonna tell you why Mustad is something that I like, because they've been around for a long, long time. Mustad is a Norwegian company that has been making hooks, and they have perfected it for many, many years. And they're a Norwegian company that makes about 1.2 billion hooks a year. You think they probably know a little bit about making hooks? I think so. That's why I like to use them. So there's so many different brands out there, and not saying any other brand is bad, but this is something that I believe in. I like to believe in someone that has been doing it a long time. and Mustad's been doing a long time. Another hook that I like to use, especially when you have a hard bait. Hard bait could be like something like a topwater bait, a spook that most people would throw, a crankbait, a jerk bait. You know, any of those things are going to use a treble hook. And you want the right treble hook. And the thing about a treble hook, there's so many hooks on it. So when your bait is in the water and that fish may slap at it, or the fish may swing at it and miss, ultimately one of these hooks will get them, and usually you have 3 of these types of hooks on one bait. So a treble hook is always important, and you can find them in heavy gauge, and you can also find them in light wire. But I tend to go with a lot of light wire because I trust myself on how to manage the fish and make sure I don't bend the hook. So that's the type of hooks that I like to use. There's so many. Don't get too involved with how many hooks you see. Know what you want. Remember, there's a light wire gauge, the heavy wire gauge, and of course there's the circle hooks. And you find out which one applies to you based on the type of water you're fishing, whether it's salt water or fresh water.